Hello, everybody. This is Dania, Naturopath and energetic therapist. I welcome you to the Magickal Mothering Podcast Season 2. My intention for this season and for my work is to have a raw, unedited download of my philosophies and insights into mothering the new children, of raising ourselves as the new priestesses of motherhood, and being able to connect and feel safe within our bodies, feeling in tune with our cycles and our physiology and how we are connected to the earth and the earth's rhythms. Okay, so this podcast is all about breaking the cycles of the modern world and our expectations that are placed upon us so that we can nourish ourselves, because it's something that has been missing from the feminine for generations. We have to relearn how to find nourishment and pleasure in our motherhood rather than martyrdom. So I don't have a script anymore. I have some questions down here that I have written, and I am pretty much interviewing myself for you to get to know this process and come with me on this journey. Okay, so this is for women who are raising highly sensitive children and uncovering the fact that they probably are highly sensitive in themselves. They are finding that they have been really burning out, trying to fit into a system that is not built for you. And so there are many different um, drivers, underlying factors behind your sensitivities. So I support women who have a history of trauma. I support women who have a history of burnout and stress. I support neurodivergence, whether you are diagnosed or undiagnosed. That's okay. It's all completely valid. And this is what I'm supporting because it is all related. Okay. It comes up with a myriad of symptoms, whether that is that motherhood rage that is a factor from our undernourishment, from our hormonal dysregulation, from our lack of sleep and our lack of support. These are all related. Okay, so let's bring it all together. Let's create a new paradigm of the priestesses of motherhood and rise up into our nurturing and self pleasure and being able to stand in our power and support each other. This is what I'm here for. So I'm here for you, women, if you are relating to this story. And if you want to find this connection within yourself, if you want to find your connection to your family, your relationships. I know when I was at my peak in my journey, where I had to cross that bridge into self-discovery in order to save my family's relationships connection, it was something that I was really scared of losing because my rage, my moods, my reactivity were at a point where I was, you know, scared of losing it all. So here's my unscripted spiel and philosophy in my stories, and I'm going to get vulnerable, and it's kind of scary, and it's probably why it's taken me so long to launch this season, because I've wanted it to be real. And I have a lot to say, and I have that perfectionist quality and that all or nothing view mindset, maybe. And but I don't want to hold back anymore. I don't want to filter myself or try and navigate the right way to do things, even though it's so important to me. It's more important that I get this out there and communicate my message of how important it is to be able to come back to yourself, to find safety within yourself and that comfortability in who you are, in the shadow self. And as a history of a shadow worker and a tarot reader, it's all about finding the gold in that cave of shadows and accessing that with without fear or shame. So even if there is fear, even if there is shame, welcoming it, exploring it, opening to it, and loving it is the huge part to this, is loving it, even when it feels like something you want to distance yourself from. That is the most important time to open up to it, open up your heart to it, open up your arms to it, and move closer to those parts of yourself. And that is what brings us into our connection with others, which is what we are striving for. We want to be that nurturing, calm, reliable anchor for our children in those storms and whatever is going on for their world. We want to teach them emotional regulation. We want to teach them how to be calm and how to process their emotions and how to have a stable and regulated immune system and nervous system, all of the things that come up in this highly sensitivity children of now. I will explain all of these things on this journey. What I was saying is that I have that perfectionism and so much to say. I'm not going to say it all in this episode. There's going to be things that I miss out, but that's part of the journey, is that there'll be another episode where I can fill in the gaps of my mind and where I've skipped over things or have not said the full story. It'll all come out when it's ready, when it's supposed to, when the timing is right. And I am just here to share and be of service in my story, and hopefully this will inspire and guide and lift you up and help you know that you're not alone, and I would love to be here with you. So we are raising our children to feel safe and comfortable in their bodies. How do we do that? We do that by feeling safe and comfortable in our own bodies. That's the journey. So let's see my questions for this. This is a reintroduction, this episode 1. Me. My name's Dania Foster. I am a naturopath in that I have finally graduated with my Bachelor of Health Science Naturopathy. It's been a long time coming. Do you know that I started this degree in 2007? Stopped, started, moved across the country, had babies, stopped, started, picked it up, repeated some stuff. We got there eventually. It's been a really long journey for me, but it's something that I've stuck to, persevered through, because this is my life. These philosophies that are naturopathic philosophies are something that I live by, and it's really important to me to follow that. So, naturopath. In the meantime, I've been working as an energy healer, a shadow worker, a tarot reader, a Reiki healer, crystal healer, meditation guide, all of those sort of things, women's circle keeper. These are the things that I have been doing whilst raising my babies and building this degree, this qualification behind the scenes. So there was the question of, when I was relaunching this podcast, whether I scrapped the whole thing once I had qualified as a naturopath, and whether it was still all about magical mothering. And so I was feeling a bit of self-doubt about keeping that title. But I have decided, when I do my inner check-in, drop down into my inner wisdom and ask, what's the right way to do this? It has to be magical mothering. It has to be. And that brought up a lot of self-doubt within me, and questions whether I was still legitimate as a evidence-based naturopathic healer. Didn't want to downplay that at all. But at the same time, I can't let go of these magical roots. I can't deny the power that they have to connect us in to our deeper selves, and how much of a role that has to play in our healing. So this isn't all about fairies and crystals, although that is some huge aspect to my life. And I can go there if you'd like to know more information about that. But it's all about weaving these traditional practices, these magical practices, and owning that witch self within with the evidence-based knowledge that we have about how our body works physiologically and how that actually will, science will catch up eventually and understand how magic works. Magic is just science that hasn't been proven yet, and it's so intriguing. So why is it called magical mothering? To wrap that up, it's because we are mothering with a deeper sense of magic. Now, what does it take to be a magical mother? That's my next question for me. What does it take to be a magical mother? I think it takes the ability or the willingness to drop down into that inner wisdom that I was just referring to and check in with your inner guidance, your intuition, and trust. Trust is a huge element to the magical mother. This is why we have gone down the pathway of unschooling. It is a huge part of trusting the relationship, the connection, the abilities, and the timing, the processing. Um, so magical mothering, what does it take? It takes trust, it takes intuitive knowing, it takes the knowing of when to take space and when to move in, move out. It takes And that comes into the space of slowing down, and that's taking space from pushing a topic with your children. It takes space from society and their expectations of what is expected of you to perform or to please or to do or to keep up at a certain level or to follow this path and this order. You get to create your own path. You get to create your own journey, and that is based on that trust and that intuition, and that is your guide. That's what you're following. What does it take to be a magical mother is willingness to embrace the fear, those deeper fears, those deeper shadow aspects, as the shame, to be able to look at yourself and your deeper parts with love, with compassion. Magical mothering takes self-compassion, definitely. Yeah. Did I have, or was I raised by a magical mother? Yeah, like I have memories of my mum's healing journey, sitting out. We had a fairy garden that she had built under this tree that was blossoming, and I just remember the smell of the blossoms. And even when all of the petals had fallen down onto the ground and were rotting, I remember sitting down there and just waiting, probably annoying her, but waiting for her to finish her meditation or her journaling. And just being in that presence felt magical to me. I remember the letters that she would write to the universe, and um, they were so sacred, and she would fold them up and stick them under her angel statues up on the mantle. And I remember going to the beach whenever it was storming and having to yeah, wait for her to meditate and having to give her that space, and remember her asking for that space to meditate. And, I was raised by a single mom, and she was on her healing journey, and she was learning, I was learning, and I just have to celebrate her where she's at and everything that she went through as a child. She was so young when she had me. And I was raised by a magical mother because she was willing to embrace her fears. She was willing to embrace her shame and the hard parts, and um, trust and move forward. And as all mothers, we don't get it right 100% of the time. Even now, moving in trust, moving in the path of my intuition, it's not going to be 100%. all the time. And it's sometimes the fear will get the better of me or something will happen and I will switch back into a state of fear or holding back that trust. And that's where I hope that my daughter, my children, I have 3, will find that compassion to look at me as though I'm doing my best as well and know that we're all on this journey together. And just because we're breaking cycles doesn't mean we have to break all of them. It's not all our responsibility. It wasn't all on my mum. She broke so many cycles. There are still cycles that I'm breaking, and I'm sure there'll be cycles for my daughter to break, my children to break. And this is the journey. If life didn't have lessons, then it would be really, really boring. Okay, when did I realize it that I needed things to change? And how did they change? I mentioned it in the beginning that I had that burnout moment. I had a toddler who never slept and I was pregnant with another and I was burnt out and I had no sleep. I had no reserves. My nutritional depletion was rock bottom. And I kept pushing, I kept pleasing, and it built a burning resentment. And I had that feeling under my skin where I just couldn't be touched and I couldn't ask for space without snapping. And I needed to know who I was again. I completely had lost touch with who I was, but I had no idea how to ask for that because I felt like if I was to ask for any type of assistance or help, that I was failing. So that was a point where I knew that everything had to stop. You know, when you just want the world to stop spinning and just come to a standstill so you can gather yourself again. And that was in that moment I had a corporate job working 5 days a week in the city, and I went on maternity leave to have my second baby, and then I was like, everything is going to change from this point onwards. And I remember one of my last weeks at work being on the phone to college and enrolling in my degree of naturopathy again, which I hadn't gone to for 7 years. I'd been on pause, on postponement, on deferral, and I knew that I had to get back. I had to get back on my path of what my intuition had guided me to all of those years ago when I left veterinary school and went to um, Endeavour and signed up on the spot. I had to get back to that moment. So I can go into that story another time, or you can read my chapter in Mother's Circle, a book that I have. You can check that out on my website or ask me. But I needed to get back to that. And so from there, I began practicing my energy work again, doing my practices, bringing it all back out, bring it back out of the box that I had in storage. It kept myself in storage. Um, yeah, so that is the first episode back. I look forward to sharing more stories with you as time goes on, but I'd love to hear your insights and questions. So please share them in the comments or send me a private message or an email, but I'd love to hear from you. Lots of love to you all and take care.